Hey, welcome everybody to today's webinar. This webinar is focused on organizations or programs or entities that are interested in becoming a supporting organization with active schools. So anyone within our space that has a similar vision or mission of creating the active school culture is who we want to connect with, and that's our purpose of having this webinar today. Thank you for those of you joining us in person, and all of you who are registered to get the recording, or those of you who are watching this after the fact, thank you for taking part. Quick introductions. My name is Nick Klein. I am the Active Schools Director, so happy to be here, and I'll turn it over to my counterpart, Brian.
Hi, everyone. Brian Downhauer. I'm a professor at the University of Northern Colorado, which is in Greeley, Colorado. Been here for 11 years now. I coordinate our master's program in physical education and physical activity leadership. And then I'm also director of the UNC Active Schools Institute, which, as you can imagine, is interested in research and work around promoting physical activity before, during, and after the school day. And the UNC Active Schools Institute has been a strategic partner of Active Schools for about 2.5 years now. So good to see everyone.
And I just want to say, everything that we're about to share with you would not be possible without our partnership with the UNC Active Schools Institute. Brian and his team, we are so grateful for you, so thank you. All right, let's dive in. So if you have not introduced yourself already in the chat box, go ahead, tell us who you are and the organization you are representing. I'm going to keep going as you are writing that. So just a little bit of level setting here to let you know who Active Schools is and sort of like where our home base lies. So we were started back as the Michelle Obama First Lady initiative of Let's Move. When that presidency ended, we were looking for a home organization, once again, with that similar values that we possess. And we found that within Action for Healthy Kids. So Action for Healthy Kids recently also merged with RMC Health. They have 3 main focuses. One is nutrition, one is social emotional learning, and then the third would be physical activity. And that's where Active Schools can support their work and everything that we're doing to create the active school culture. Now, more about Active Schools itself. So I am the one like employee. I work roughly 20 hours a week for Active Schools. And then in addition to me, when we have the partnership, like we said, with the University of Northern Colorado, and then the 2 groups we have, one is the Strategic Advisory Council, sort of like the board of directors, for lack of a better term. So they just help advise and support me and Active Schools in general. And then the Active Schools Research Alliance. So Brian is the chair of this committee, comprised mostly of people at the higher education who are into the active school philosophy and are supporting the research behind that. All right, so our vision is that all youth are educated in an active school to enhance learning, health, and well-being. And that's what we all know if we're sort of in this space and taking part in this. We already understand and recognize that. And Brian, if you can help me watch the participant list too, that would be great. Our mission is to integrate evidence-based physical activity programs into every school, everywhere, from pre-K through 12th grade. And a lot of times this sort of gets lost and at the secondary level. And we believe all kids of all ages should be active. So who do we target? The implementers, the boots on the ground. So that's the teachers and the staff and those people that work in the school system, as well as the education influencers. So those are the administrators, principals, superintendents, curriculum directors, wellness chairs, like anyone who sort of has an advisory capacity for a school, as well as parents, the Board of Education members, university folks. So all those people that connect with schools, and then program providers. So a lot of you folks here sort of fit that niche. All right, so before we go any further, it's important that if you're not already an active schools champion, that you quickly become one so that you can get our communication outside of just this webinar. So we send usually a monthly a monthly newsletter, and only those that are registered to be a champion get that newsletter. So Brian, did you drop that in the chat? I have so many boxes open here, I can't even see.
I will put the website in just a second.
So we'll give everyone a second to collect that link. And so being a champion is totally free. It just basically means that you are joining the network of people who believe that physical activity is important. So we're at the end of 2003. What did we do this year? So these are some highlights. Last school year, so at the beginning of the 2022-2023 school year, we launched a program endorsement school recognition. We'll tell you more about that coming up. We hosted this summer, July of 23, the first ever Active Schools National Summit. We'll also mention that in a future slide. We created this comprehensive school physical activity program, which Brian will touch on. And then we also developed an affiliation with the Youth Activity Profile. So the Youth Activity Profile used to be under the umbrella of Iowa State, Greg Wilk and his team, and Brian or Greg allowed us to now house and sort of like share the Youth Activity Profile. So lots of great things that happen, and we're looking forward to many more in the coming year. So what was the highlight of your year? Go ahead, drop a message into the chat. Like, did something big happen to you personally or professionally? Give you just a quick second to drop that in. All right. And then we'll continue on while everyone else is finishing up their comments. We have 3 annual campaigns during the year. So in the fall, we host Family PE Week. That's 1 week, the first week in October. February, so coming up here soon, is Active Classrooms Month, and then Play All May. It's just a month full of not inventing our own physical activities, but just sharing everything else that's out there, like National Sport and PE Week, which is the first week of May. So lots of good things happening, and it's our role that month to just help share with our network of champions. I'll turn it over to Brian.
Right, thanks, Nick. So I'm going to take a few minutes here to give a little bit more information about the foundation of Active Schools. And really, as Nick has mentioned a couple times so far, it's all about trying to develop an active school culture. And if we think about that term itself, really what it's trying to capture is that if we want to promote physical activity in schools, it can't just be a one-off effort. It really has to be something that's more integrated into the fabric of the school community. And if we think about something like social emotional learning, for example, and how that has really become a pillar in a lot of K through 12 schools, and it's been very successful in the way that it's been implemented, and it's aligned with evidence-based practices. If we think about that as a model, that's what we really want for physical activity. We want everyone in the school community doing their part to support an active lifestyle. And so this framework that you see on the left-hand side is really at the core of what Active Schools is all about. And if we go to the next slide, I'll kind of dive into these essential elements. So embedded within this framework are 9 essential elements of an active school culture. Those that may be familiar with comprehensive school physical activity programs, or CSPAP or CSPAPs, that is the 5-component model from the CDC and Shape America. Those 5 components are still embedded within this framework. However, this extends the framework and really looks at some of these other supporting structures that need to be in place in schools in order for physical activity promotion to be effective. So, for example, diversity, equity, and inclusion. You'll notice in the framework to the right, it's kind of in that interstitial space there in the white, because it is embedded into everything, every single element of an active school culture, the considerations of how to be diverse, equitable, and inclusive. The other one I'll point out too is number 6, the planning, implementation, and evaluation. So we know that many schools and administrators and teachers are very aware of the benefits of physical activity, and they're on board if we talk to them. The actual enactment of these practices and strategies is a little bit more challenging. And so that particular element describes a systematic process for planning, implementation, and evaluation that's based in implementation science research. So these 9 essential elements establish the core for active schools and all of the work that it does. Active schools has different layers or different levels of support that they offer to K through 12 schools. And so if you look at the bottom, Nick told you all, if you haven't become an active schools champion, it is free and you just register. That's the first step in terms of becoming involved with active schools. Reviewing all of the resources that I'm going to go into more depth with in just a minute is the next level to really familiarize yourself with what it means to have an active school culture and what the evidence-based practices are surrounding the different essential elements. Active Schools provides professional development. It's free and it's online, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that as well. So that's sort of that next phase. And then Active Schools is also interested in helping schools and districts develop capacity. And we can do this in a variety of ways in collaboration with other partners. Nick mentioned Iowa State and Greg Welk with the Youth Activity Profile, helping schools really capitalize on the data that they collect with that instrument and some of the other tools that I'm going to discuss today. So there's 4 foundational documents that are located on the Active Schools website that you can review. The guiding framework it's a 50-page document that really dives deep into the research literature around those 9 essential elements of an active school culture. It defines them and it synthesizes the research that shows us how we know that these are best practices to do in schools. The next document is the School Implementation Guide. This one is a little bit more simple and not quite as research heavy, and it goes through tangible strategies related to the 9 essential elements of an active school culture. And it has tools and resources and little tips that schools can use to implement the strategies and practices. The third one is the most straightforward, simplest version of this information. It's the menus of evidence-based practices. And basically there's one menu per each of the 9 essential elements. And it's basically like a checklist that schools can use to go through and decide to what extent they're actually implementing these evidence-based practices in the different areas. The last foundational guidance document is an evaluation handbook. Many schools struggle to measure the process and the impact of the work that they're doing. And so this handbook has a variety of tools that are relatively practitioner-friendly to be able to assess and evaluate the different parts of an active school culture. So the website is down there and the direct link to those foundational documents. We'll watch a quick video on the implementation guide.
And just real quick, so all of the slides are also interactive. So I'm dropping links into the notes or the chat box. If you're not able to access that, or if you log off early and miss the chat box, I'll send a copy of the presentation with the recording, and all the slides that have a link, you just click on the graphic, and then that'll bring you to the website or resource that's referenced. So on the foundational documents, you click on any of those 4 things, it brings you to where to find that online. Same thing with the campaign, same thing with registering. So everything is interactive on these slides. So without further ado, let's watch the implementation guide. I better pause it because I'm realizing now that I did not share my sound. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. Now let's go. We good, Brian?
At Active Schools, we know that active kids do better in school and in life. That's why we are committed to integrating evidence-based physical activity programs into every student's PK-12 education. Evidence shows that a whole-of-school approach, like a comprehensive school physical activity program, works best to get kids moving before, during, and after the school day. And engagement from the entire school community is essential to building a sustainable active school culture. Active Schools has developed a school implementation guide to provide schools with tangible strategies for promoting an active school culture on PK through 12 campuses. The school implementation guide is aligned with the 9 essential elements of an active school culture as defined in the Active Schools Guiding Framework. The purpose of the school implementation guide is to provide schools with evidence-based practices, tips, tools, and resources related to each of the 9 essential elements. Think of this document as a brief how-to guide that can help you to build a more positive active school culture. The school implementation guide includes a rationale for the inclusion of each element within the Active Schools framework. You can use this rationale as an advocacy tool when working toward implementation of all 9 elements in your school. Evidence-based practices that have been proven to be effective are presented along with suggestions or strategies for successful implementation. Each page contains quick expert tips to help you implement evidence-based practices in your school. At the bottom of each page, you'll find tools and resources that provide additional information or support related to each element. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to establishing an active school, as each school's context varies, and it is up to the active school team to determine the best way to provide physical activity opportunities within their school community. The school implementation guide can help schools rationalize existing practices and offers ideas and resources related to new programs and practices. Get started by downloading the school implementation guide from the Active Schools website.
Okay, so that was just one example. If you want to familiarize yourself with each of those foundational documents, there's a similar video on the Active Schools website for each one of those. And feel free to share those with colleagues to sort of get the word out about what kinds of information is included in each of these. In addition to the foundational documents, there's some other tools and resources that are available on the Active Schools website. The Comprehensive School Physical Activity Program Questionnaire, or CSPAP-Q, is a needs assessment that can be conducted. It's related to the 5 components of CSPAP and allows schools to see how well their current programs and practices and policies are aligned with what we know to be best practice. And then we're also attempting to get the next generation of physical education teachers to be aware of active schools and how to be a physical activity leader, even beyond the 4 walls of the gymnasium. And so that's where the PEAT program implementation guide comes in terms of pre-service teacher education programs. The youth activity profile is basically a self-report measure that students can use. It has 15 questions that students answer regarding their physical activity behaviors in different contexts, before and after school, during school, in PE, and then even on weekends and weekdays outside of school. It has items related to sedentary behavior like screen time as well. And this tool was actually calibrated using accelerometers. And so kids answered the questions, the self-reported questions, while they were wearing accelerometers. And so if you compare it to other self-reported tools, it has a little bit more validity and rigor associated with it. And as Nick mentioned, all active school champions have access to this tool to be able to use it within their schools and even at a district level. It's completely free. And so this is a resource that is a really valuable resource that all active schools have access to. I mentioned the online professional development. There are 3 self-paced asynchronous courses available through active schools. These courses are delivered through Canvas, a learning management system. And basically, whoever wants to learn more about an active school culture and actually be guided through some of the steps that are within the 9 essential elements, they can take these 3 courses and they can go through the modules at their own pace and complete different tasks and different assignments associated with the different elements. We expect each of the courses to take approximately 6 to 18 weeks to complete. That's if you do like 1 module a week or 1 module every 3 weeks. Anyone who takes the course and completes it can get 18 hours of continuing education credit. And so this is a value add for sure for a lot of teachers that can jump on their pay scale and stuff because of the professional development they complete.
All right, so let's launch a poll. So we shared a bunch of resources, and obviously we think they're all great, but like, is there one that stands out to you? So that's the question of the poll. So let's go ahead and launch this. Select the one, the foundational documents, the youth activity profile, that CISPAP-Q, or the professional development. Give you all another 30 seconds to chime in. All right. We'll end that poll. Pretty evenly split across the, I can share, I think probably right there. Pretty evenly split across everything that we share today. So something for everybody. All right, so now is where you all come in. So what is the supporting organization? The supporting organization, like I said, when we started, is somebody that believes in the importance of creating an active school culture. So Active Schools does not provide the programs or the services to provide the physical activity opportunities. So that's where you all come in. So we're not the one who's creating videos or creating programs or curriculum for teachers or the people to utilize in schools. So that's why we need the support of organizations who do that. So how do you become a supporting organization? You apply using the Google form. So I'm going to drop that into the chat box just so you have it. Full question out of the way. So dive into that Google form. It's a pretty simple application. We'll review those in January, and then if you're accepted or not, we'll let you know. The memorandum of agreement is linked within the Google form. Also, very simple, not a lot of asks. What we are willing to do, we're willing to serve as like the backbone, all right, like the one who's sort of leading the charge with everyone who's supporting that behind us. We're going to post your logo on our website. If you go to our website now, you can see all of the current supporting organizations. So we want to refresh that for 2023. So those that might fall off or aren't doing what they're, continuing to support physical activity or whatnot, transition out, have different priorities, will come off, and anyone else who is interested in joining can team up, and that's where we'll post your logo. Let's see. We're going to offer you an opportunity to get endorsed. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. And then we're going to make sure we communicate with you to share everything that is happening. Okay. What do we ask of the organization? So one is to work collaboratively with us to increase the number of champions. So that's what we all did. If you weren't early on, to just join the movement. It's a super simple process. Whenever you did it, it's like name, what's your position in the school, what's your email, send. And that allows us to just create that bigger team, that bigger army of champions. We're going to ask organizations to follow the guidelines of using our logo to place on your website. We want your support of all of the things that we do, the campaigns, the resources like those foundational documents and the professional development to be shared. So if you have newsletters or emails or communications, make sure that teachers and schools know about them. And then we have an annual meeting with all supporting organizations just to let them know. That took place about a month ago. What is happening, what's new, what are we doing? So it's just that review and opportunity to connect together. So very simple asks to be a supporting organization. Two of the new things, is this me or you, Brian? This is you. I'm gonna stop talking and let Brian take over.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm going to talk a little bit about two somewhat related things through Active Schools. One is school recognition and then program endorsement. And we'll focus mostly on the program endorsement, but we also like to acknowledge and highlight some of the amazing things happening in schools. So we'll mention it in just a minute. So let's start with program endorsement. So all supporting organizations, can you click to the next slide? Yeah. All supporting organizations who commit to being a member of Active Schools has the option to pursue program endorsement. It's not a requirement. If organizations choose to do this, the number one step is that they review the menus of evidence-based practices to see how their programs, their resources, their tools that they provide align with what we know is best practice in schools. There is an application that can be downloaded from the Active Schools website in either Word form or as a Google Doc. And in that application, programs will describe how they align with these evidence-based practices in the menus. And so they'll do a thick, rich description of, that alignment, and then provide some form of documentation or evidence to prove that, to show that. And so these can be like artifacts or examples of curriculum. These can be pictures of the program in action with schools actually implementing it. These could be evaluations that have been done of the program to show the impact of, the programs as it works in schools. So there has to be that documentation and evidence to show how it aligns with the evidence-based practices. This will be submitted to Active Schools via a Google form. This is where those artifacts can be uploaded as attachments. And then those applications will be reviewed at 3 points throughout the year. So this is a rolling application. Supporting organizations can do this at any time, and then they will be reviewed in August, December, and May. Then it's the recognition piece. And so basically what happens is that recognized programs are then highlighted on the Active Schools website, and the logo and a description of the program is available for everyone to see. Supporting organizations will also get a version of the seal that you see on the right-hand side of the screen. So that has all the 9 essential elements included in it, and supporting organizations only have to submit for the individual elements that they want to pursue endorsement in. So, for example, if your organization has, let's say, nothing to do with before and after school programming, you simply don't submit for endorsement in that particular element. But let's say your program is related to physical education. You could then go through the evidence-based practices within the physical education component, describe how you align with them, provide documentation and evidence, and then your seal would end up having the physical education element highlighted on it, and the other ones would end up remaining blank. And if your programs decide to expand and go and touch on different elements, it's an ongoing process, so programs can continue to submit for endorsement over time. So in 2023, we had 3 partner organizations go through the program endorsement process, Active Academics, Catch, and Open. All 3 secured program endorsement in at least one area, And you can kind of see how those seals end up showing up and documenting how that particular program or partner organization aligns with the 9 essential elements of an active school culture. We always like to brag on our people, so I'm sad Matt Wood was actually on this call just a little bit ago, but he had to pop off. But we have a school recognition program that's very similar to what programs can go through for endorsement. And basically, schools can submit an application for recognition related to the 9 essential elements, and they earn the badges that you can see on the right-hand side there. They get a physical badge and they get a digital badge that they can use on their websites and bulletin boards and to promote the work they're doing to promote physical activity. Matt Wood in Washington was one of our first schools to go through the recognition process and actually earned a badge in all 9 essential elements of an active school culture. So we like to brag on Matt as much as we possibly can.
For sure. All right. So we mentioned the summit, the first one that took place in 2023. We're going to repeat it, make it bigger and better. Although I'm not sure if we can make it better because it was pretty awesome. If you want to talk with anyone that went as a reference, happy to send you some names of participants or the vendors, exhibitors that went, because the reviews via the surveys were all very, very super positive. So we just opened registration. The dates there you see are July 17th through the 19th. So this summit welcomes anyone and everyone in the space of those that create an active school culture. So all those people that we mentioned on that slide a while ago, like who are the champions. So it's not just the implementers, it's not just the PE teachers. This conference has sessions for classroom teachers who embrace movement, for people who have like the before after school recess supervision roles, the administrators, parents, PTA. Like we want everyone to come in to sort of like just learn and celebrate active schools and active school culture together. We have a super early bird registration rate for participants, which is the same price that we had in 2023. So before there's a slight increase, you can register for that same rate by January 5th. And if you're not a participant and you want to come as an exhibitor or vendor, you can also find that information on our website. So we hope to have some people who are watching this join us this coming summer. All right, so taking action. What are your next steps? If you want to be a supporting organization and you have not already done so, please get your application in by January 12th. And that'll give us a couple of weeks to review them and then get you an answer by the end of the month. Become familiar with that guiding framework and those 9 essential elements. So we touched on those today, but obviously can't dive into them completely. Engage, like we said, with everything that we're doing and just help amplify and share what the importance is of an active school. And then obviously continue to do what you're doing. So anything that you're doing to provide physical activity opportunities, make it happen. All right, kids need to move more. We all know it. So the more people that are shouting from the rooftops, the more people who are doing good things, the better it is for students. So I just want to sum up by thanking everyone for being here. If you're on social media, that's our profile is at Active Schools US. Our email is info@activeschoolsus.org. So if you have questions or follow-up to this presentation, please let us know. And since the holidays are just a couple months or a couple weeks away, I mean, hopefully you get some time to rest, relax, enjoy time with friends and family. So happy holidays to everyone. Thank you for being a part of this, and take care. Brian, any last remarks from you?
Thanks for joining, everyone. Thanks for your support of Active Schools.